This video was made possible thanks to the support of our amazing patrons. We couldn't do this without you.
Don't forget that you can support the channel for free and receive 10% off orders over $10 at Flipside Gaming by using the promo code Affinity at the checkout. Or if TCG Player or Magic Madhouse are more your thing, then be sure to place your order through our affiliate links in the description. Once again, at no extra cost to yourselves. Hello everyone and welcome back to Affinity for Commander. My name is Alex and today we're going to look at the best, most powerful, most adorable creature to come out of M21 and what Commander deck we can build around it. I am of course talking about Rin and Seri, the Inseparable. For 1 generic, 1 red, 1 green and 1 white, Rin and Seri are a 4/4 legendary dog cat creature type. Probably deliberately done there so as not to infringe on any Nickelodeon intellectual property. They read, whenever you cast a dog spell, create a 1/1 green cat creature token. Whenever you cast a cat spell, create a 1/1 white dog creature token. And, for 1 red, 1 green, 1 white, and tapping Rin and Seri Inseparable deals damage to any target equal to the number of dogs you control, and you then gain life equal to the number of cats you control. So firstly we're going to go with the creatures for this token producing deck, the support, some lands, and then pricey upgrades at the end. Given Rin and Seri's ability to produce tokens that are both cats and dogs based on the spells cast, we are obviously going to have to be focusing on these two tribes in particular. So let's start with the catos. We have an entire clouder of cats to buff our wee 1/1s. Kahir the Orphan Guard, Regal Caracal for some tasty lifelink along with that buff, King of the Pride for a super buff, and then finally Feline Sovereign. A card that not only serves to boost our kittens, but also acts as some fantastic artifact and enchantment removal. Speaking of quality artifact and enchantment removal, Quasi Slingers will absolutely shred any Estrid or Breya deck in seconds. But cats aren't really known for being a hard-hitting tribe. There isn't any crater of line, if you get my meaning. So we're going to try to focus on going as wide as possible with our little scratchy army. Pride Sovereign, Brimaz, King of Ereskis, and Leonin War Leader all serve to generate us more and more tokens to absolutely smother our opponents beneath a tidal wave of adorableness. But we're going to need other kiddos to be able to win out over our opponents. A personal selection of my favourites are Fleecemane Lion to provide an indestructible hexproof blocker, or Fleetfoot Panther to provide some excellent protection for most of our high value creatures by bouncing them back to our hand in response to a kill spell. Miri, Weatherlight Duelist, also makes attacking and blocking super awkward and frustrating for literally everyone at the table, and Ereskis Explorer can help to serve as that little bit of ramp to help us get more and more going. Yes, I know we're in green, but we're too busy casting dog and cat spells to be playing Stee, and Ereskis Explorer is still a very good card, who is also a kitty cat. Or if your playgroup is really into control magic, then Prowling Sherpapod is a great way to be able to look that blue player in the eye and just say, no. And finally, one of my absolute favourites, Set's Tiger. One of the best ways I've found in my years of playing Magic to not die to an insanely buffed army coming directly at you. For this reason, this card is probably only done out by maybe Teferi's Protection. And if I'm describing a card like Teferi's Protection, you know it's going to be good. A good point to know with all of these lovely kiddos is that when you cast them, you get a 1/1 dog token as well, just added on value to those powerful cards, making the already infamous Ishimaru Hound of Condor even more powerful. Which may as well transition into talking about the dogs for this deck. Okay, that is a little bit unkind, but when you compare the number of dogs throughout Magic's history to those of cats, the numbers just fail in comparison, even with the rules change, changing everything from hound to now dog. But that shall not stop me from naming the bestest boys and girls who deserve a spot in this deck. Pack Leader is obviously one to include with its Anthem effect, removal of combat damage from dogs, and also stunning facial hair. Something I myself can relate to. Resolute Watchdog helps us save any of our valuable creatures, as does Selfless Saviour. Supply Runners is normally not a card I would even remotely consider putting in any deck, but considering it makes a 1/1 and then it comes in and puts a counter on our entire army, yeah, I would definitely consider it. After all you need is 3 other creatures to make this 5 mana for 6 power, which, anything on top, is just gravy. And that's kind of it. Like I said, the number of dogs just really isn't there. Yes, there are some smaller ones that you can put in if you're looking to make Rin and Seri a much more aggro commander. Playing a 2-mana doggo to get the 1-mana cat token, then overrun your opponent, you can certainly do that. But I've got some other ideas of how to completely abuse this commander's particularly worded ability. After all, why choose cat or dog when you can have both? Changeling creatures are, after all creature types at all times. So if I were to say cast Imposter of the 6th Pride, I would get a 3/1 and 2 1/1s for the low price of 2 mana. Valiant Changeling also provides with 2 1/1s for what should be a relatively cheap 3/3 double striker. After all, we've got cats, we've got dogs, we've got clerics, we've got warriors, and now shapeshifters. This card should never be costing anywhere near 7 mana. Tauren Mauler is also going to be serving as one of our hardest hitting cats, dogs, dinosaurs, badger thing, provided he stays around long enough to accrue enough counters. And here to provide the answer to the question, how did token decks win, we have Mirror Entity. It's late game, there's a board stall, you've all killed the control player for counting your commander just one too many times, and then this 3-mana 1/1 comes in and changes your entire army into the swollest kitty and doggo tribe you've ever seen. However, the impressive and surprisingly versatile keyword of Changeling is not just for creatures. Crib Swap provides us with some excellent removal whilst providing us with, again, 2 1/1s. Or what about the Blades of Velis Vel, a lovely little card who, for instant speed, for 2 mana, can provide us with 2 1/1s. And can I just say, I love this card. It's combat, you've swung in, blockers have been declared. All of a sudden, oh, you now have 2 more blockers for the crackback. All your creatures now have +2/+0 first strike, and all those interacting lord effects that were already confusing to figure out, now just buff your entire board. And all for 2 mana. Love it. That's enough talking about creatures and tokens. So instead, let's just focus on tokens. Parallel Lives and Anointed Procession. Yes, I know these cards have been on an upward trend ever since their printing, but token decks aren't going away, and that might be all the more reason to pick these cards up now, lest they go out of your price range. After all, these 2 cards are something I believe really does up the power level of this deck considerably, just by their inclusion. And if you're really looking to go hard in on the token theme, then Harvest Season is a card I can recommend to make sure you have double the number of pieces of boop to pick up when you go to the park. If you get my meaning. And with all these tokens, we need some way to protect them from the inevitable board wipe. Rootborn Defense's Unbreakable Formation and Boros Charm will all happily see our army of kiddos and doggos sailing through to the next turn completely unaffected. These cards can also provide us with more tokens, and if the occasion calls for it, a +1/+1 counter on each creature, and then alpha swing in, knowing that none of our creatures will die during combat. But having all the good cards in the world means nothing if we're only drawing 1 a turn like some commoner. No, we need draw spells. And in Naya, how are we going to do that? Well, I'm being honest with you, viewer. Green is going to do most of the heavy lifting. Guardian Project literally says draw a card every time you play a creature spell, and Livecrafter's Bestiary has a very similar effect for the addition of 1 green mana, but you also get a scry at the beginning of every turn. We also have the complete obviousness that is Skull Clamp, because we're in a token deck, so obviously. And finally, for my recommended draw spells, Shamanic Revelation. I love this card, because all you need is a large amount of creatures, check. Creatures that are big enough to trigger some life gain, check. And suddenly you have probably one of the best drawing cards in EDH, and in green. Now let's take a look at some cards to really help push this deck into the top tier. We're going to make a load of tokens, so let's take advantage of that. Cards like Cathar's Crusade will see us dominating and stomping over all the competition in no time, and Aura Shards will, once again, help us shred through any problematic artifacts or enchantments that happen to look at our deck funny. However, even all the cards that I've mentioned so far, apart from Mirror Entity, don't really win us the game. For stuff like that, we need Triumph of the Hordes. Yes, I know I'm a terrible person, but it's still a good card, and you know it. Or if you want to keep your friends and be invited back to Commander next week, then maybe try Beastmaster Ascension, Overrun, or Titanic Ultimatum. A card that I have massively came round to. +5/+5 first strike and lifelink? Yes please, that'll definitely help me survive any amount of crackback if everyone isn't just quite dead when you swing out. Or if we're looking more the slow burn appeal, then Impact Tremors and Perforos God of the Forge are perfect to whittle away at our opponent's lives. Every time you cast a spell, you're going to be creating a 1/1 and then the creature, pinging and shocking your opponent's life totals all the way down to 0. But if even all of that isn't enough for you, then we have some pricey upgrades that less financially minded might wish to consider. Finale of Devastation, beyond just being a powerhouse of a card, can also help us tutor up any of our important lords or lifelink enablers to make sure that when we have maxed out the X of this Dino spell, we'll be ensuring our imminent victory. Primal Vigor and Doubling Season I am putting together because the counter's not really that important. We're more looking for the token effects that both of these cards give, doubling them and adding 1 more, which when we're producing 1 token per creature spell cast is literally the exact same thing. And finally, a card that's not massively expensive, but something I think everyone should be aware of, and that card is Growing Rights of Itlamok. A card that, as I say, currently is not that expensive, however, it has been constantly growing up. It's been constantly growing up in price since it has been printed, which, considering it is a 2-faced card, I cannot see Wizards reprinting it anytime soon. Yes, this budget alternative to Gaia's Cradle is definitely something that you're going to be wanting to pick up for any Commander deck in green, especially one like Rin and Seri, where you are going wide with tokens and you can abuse that mana producing ability. Overall, Rin and Seri are one of my favourite commanders to come out in recent years. A card that firstly cares about 2 different tribes, something never to happen in Magic, and also are absolutely adorable, with a fantastic late game ability to just be able to tap and clock someone for a huge amount of damage. And personally, I cannot wait to just overrun someone with a fantastic amount of kittos and doggos at my behest. And that will be the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching, guys. As always, any comments you have, leave them down below. We read every one. What's your favourite card to come out of M21, or what would you put in Rin and Seri? Be sure to let us know. And before you go, make sure to do a couple of things for us. Like this video, subscribe, and also hit that bell icon so you are notified whenever a new video comes out. You can also follow us on Twitter @4Commander, or become a patron to the channel yourself to get some amazing rewards. As always, I've been Alex, and I will see you next time. Or if your playgroup is really hard and blah.